Hi, Ken Johnson here. As part of our reporting on business for our new news and information portal, we want to spotlight different people who are doing amazing things. One of the aspects that we've thought of is, what about the young people in our area who have grown up in a home where neither parent has gone to college, and maybe where the young people believe that there really isn't a lot of opportunity to pursue a dream in our economy? Well, we know that there are a lot of people from our area and from other small towns throughout Ohio that have gone on to do amazing things in spite of growing up in a small rural community in Ohio. So this series of videos is meant to help educate our young people that they can dream big, they can pursue their dreams, and if they stick with it, they can achieve their dreams. The first video that I was able to do, we actually traveled to Beverly Hills, California to the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences and met up with Ohio native Randy Haberkamp. He comes from the small town of New Knoxville, Ohio, and he was able to move on from that small town and graduating in a very small high school class to now being a department head at arguably the most influential institution when it comes to modern filmmaking. So sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with Randy Haberkamp. Randy, our conversation is about, young people that grew up in Ohio, went to an average school experience, grew up in an average middle-class family, but yet, kind of showing to some of the young people that if you have a dream, have a goal, that you can make that come true. And just because you're in a small town in Ohio really doesn't make a difference. So first question for you, how big is New Knoxville?
New Knoxville is about as small as it gets. There were one traffic light. There were 33 kids in my class, and I went to the same school building from kindergarten up through the senior class. And there's about 700 people in the township. About 500 people live in the town. Very, very small. And most of the people that live there came from one town in Germany and are descended from that town in Germany. So there's very strong roots there.
Sure.
A lot of farmers and a few businesses, but very, very small. Couple churches, very strong religious area. So very good place to grow up. Very safe, and yet at the same time, you were surrounded by people who knew you, and so they kind of knew what you couldn't get away with much.
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences are all about movies. At what age did you first dabble in the concept of either, strong appreciation for or hobby horsing with movies?
Mm-hmm. A couple of different things all kind of happened at the same time, and it took me a while to kind of put them all together. But my dad was a polio victim from World War II.
Really?
And so we used to go to the drive-in, and we were a family in the car, and we'd watch these movies, and I'd go out and get us some popcorn or whatever and come back. And I just love that experience. I love the fun of that. And simultaneously to that, he had operated a jewelry store, and he got a regular 8 camera, movie camera, shot movies of me when I was born in the hospital. And so we have all that footage. And so this correlation between going to the drive-in, and he advertised at that drive-in, so we'd see our name up on the screen, which, was one of those weird things that only now I realize the effect that had. And having this camera and correlating the fact that these were things that people made and put up for people's entertainment. And I just always loved TV, movies, all the stories. I was just always fascinated by it. And, again, it was later I did high school plays and things and started to relate to how all of this was something you learned and put together. And it started out as just fun, but it also became something that I enjoyed, making people laugh or making people, sharing something with them that I had found, a movie or something like that, so it became a lot of fun.
Did you ever get like a part-time job as a youngster, like in a movie theater or somewhere related?
Yep, I was a projectionist. I was only 14 years old, and got a job in a nearby theater. It wasn't even in our town. I had to be driven there to go go to work there. And when I got my learner's permit, I was able to do that. And it was 35 millimeter film, and it was carbon arcs, which they don't even use anymore.
Sure.
And it was great. And we had the popcorn machine downstairs, and it was a wonderful small town theater. It's closed now. But I have a lot of fond memories of that.
So, what about college? Was college in the mix, and if so, where?
I went to Bowling Green, and first thing I did when I got there was find out where all the movie theaters were. And I went to school thinking I was going to go into journalism because that seemed more practical for an Ohio kid. And I kind of thought about it. I'm like, I really don't want to write about, how many people had a car accident today or whatever. I really want to do something a little more creative or a little bit different and more visual. And photojournalism really didn't kind of do it for me either, even though I had thought about that. And I really just started getting into taking classes in television and theater and movies. And I also was very aware of the fact that I could always do something in the exhibition business and, showing movies. And I was involved in the campus film group, and I went and did some summer stock. Bowling Green provided me with a really great range of things to do, trying things out, experimenting without any giant sense of, failure. I mean, it was just a really great training ground, and I'm really grateful for that very safe environment that was created there.
Sure. So we've tracked you from being a youngster, messing around with a Super 8 camera, loving the drive-in, to 13-year-old, you start, building up some callus, if you will. You get onto college, safe environment, playing around, kind of figure out some things you don't want to do. How does that young man up in Bowling Green, Ohio, make the leap to Beverly Hills?
I finished my undergraduate degree at Bowling Green, and it was in communications, pretty broad. And I thought, I need some more training. And I applied to UCLA and to USC. And the year before I graduated, I came out and looked at LA, tried to figure out what I was going to do. I'd really decided I wanted to pursue film more than theater, so therefore LA seemed the right place for me. Plus, I like warmth. And I got accepted at UCLA Film School. And I can't believe what a miracle that was. I don't know. I would have come out here anyway because that was kind of what I decided to do. And again, UCLA, when I came out here, it was incredibly disorganized. It was incredibly chaotic. It was going from this little tiny community not a community college, but a very it's a large school, Bowling Green, but it was also very focused.
And it's still rural Ohio.
Yeah, and it's exactly. And then coming out into the middle of Los Angeles with, the rents were outrageous, the traffic was outrageous, everything. I didn't know anybody here. I mean, it was literally about as crazy. I still can't believe I did it. And I don't know that I would always advise it either, but the film school did provide this really strong place where I had to sink or swim.
Right.
And it turned out to be exactly like real life, where you don't know what's going on. I mean, and the business doesn't make any sense, and the people are crazy, and nobody helps you.
Yeah.
And then you find friends, and you find things, and you work it out, and kind of by your own wits, pull yourself up or not. And it was a lot of fun. I success is something that everybody measures differently. Obviously sitting here at the Academy, an Oscar is one way to measure it, but I've just enjoyed my career the entire time, even when it's been really horrible and bad. I mean, I've just felt like I've always learned something from it. I've met really wild people, met some people I don't like at all, but at the same time, I've learned so much about film. I've had so many opportunities, and I think part of it is being true to what you're interested in. And even if you're in a small town in Ohio and whatever thing you're interested in seems a million miles away or seems completely unattainable, there's some facet of it available to you. There's somebody around that cares about it. And now with the internet, everything's accessible. So, really it's a matter of just having the courage, I think, to follow your own convictions. And hopefully you're lucky enough to have a support system that encourages that. But even if not, I mean, the people that I've met that are in the film business or any business who succeeded all have had to kind of search out something that was inside what they wanted to be. And I see it every once in a while when we have film students come through. I can tell the ones that are into it, and I can tell the ones that are going to fade off into something else.
Right.
And I think, having been lucky enough to grow up in a small town where I had the chance to fall down and make mistakes, and in a fairly safe environment was a great thing. But I also think growing up in a small town really taught me very clearly how much people are aware of what you're doing and how careful you need to be, and opinions and gossip and things like that, and
Sure.
how those can affect you. So it was very, very interesting process, and I truly don't know how some kids survive with the intense scrutiny that the internet and that school systems now put on learning and socialization, and with mass numbers. I mean, it's easy for me to understand how a kid would get lost.
Sure.
And all I can say is, when you're lost, look inside a little bit, and because if you have any kind of sense of who you are, you'll get a sense of who you want to be.
But don't you think, Randy, and it's kind of bad form when I'm doing an interview to put words in your mouth.
That's
but
all right.
You inspire me so many thoughts here. But would you agree or disagree that, from my perspective, quitting is always an option, and it requires zero effort, and to me, growing up, trying to make my own way, and I'm going to be one of the people I kind of tell my story.
Yeah.
But it just seemed to me that I was afraid of how easy quitting was.
Yeah.
And so it was more not a drive towards a pinnacle of success that I was restless, relentless to get to. I just wanted to avoid failure every step of the way. And then when you were surrounded by other people that accepted it at whatever, the pressure got to a certain level, they accepted it and kind of rode off in the sunset. So I don't necessarily feel anything special by being on the other side, but I certainly can taste even how close quitting was several steps of the way. Any similarity to you?
Yeah, I think it depends on what you're quitting. Walt Disney always said you learn, that he learned more than anything from his failures. And if you don't
Sure.
have a good failure, you haven't learned anything. And I think that's
Right.
really true. And even though the points in my life where, things have, opportunities have ended, or things have changed, or people have gone, for whatever reason, in the end, it's how you recover from those things.
Sure.
And we're all destined for failure because we're imperfect beings, but at the same time, to me, the only failure that I've really regretted is when I felt I wasn't being true to what I knew was right and to who I knew I wanted to be.
Sure.
And there are all kinds of temptations to make you do other things. It might be a safe job, or it might be something your parents tell you to do, or it might be something that you just feel is your last chance, or whatever like that. I mean, and I think in the end, it's like the only failure is the failure to be truthful about who you are and what
Sure.
you want to do. So
Sure.
and being afraid to fail. I think there were times in my career when I knew I should have spoken up, and I was afraid to be embarrassed, or people who were more powerful or where perhaps might have put me down or whatever.
Sure.
And in the end, I think those are the regrets I have, that I didn't step forward and I didn't, take it on. you have to pick your battles sometimes.
Sure.
But at the same time, I think I think again, coming from a small town with farm stock, even though I didn't work on a farm, I think that was the type of thing where I had to really. I had to really. I didn't do a lot of the normal things that you did in a small town. Didn't really care about basketball, and it took me a while to realize that, I really enjoy this, and if I enjoy it, then people can see that, and they can accept that.
Sure.
And those that can't, well, nobody's perfect,
Sure.
So it's tough. It's tough. And again, I think the word failure really hits home when you didn't try what you really wanted to do.
Sure. Last question, and we got to let you go. But if your chance to talk right to the young people that would be watching this, you're talking about kids, average working class family in, an average rural community in Ohio, and not everybody's going to be Urban Meyer. Not everybody's going to, and there's not enough jobs at the academy for everybody in Ohio. So everybody's going to do a little bit differently. Mm-hmm. But if you had one chance to speak to the mass, to these high school students, and give them one nugget of wisdom about getting out on their own. You mentioned earlier about being true to your own passion. What would that be?
Well, I don't ever believe you are on your own. And I believe that acknowledging that is a real important thing.
Sure.
The parents that you have, or the friends that you have, the family that you have, whether it's biological or not,
right?
The family you create. There are plenty of people who are orphaned or adopted or whatever who go on to have really successful, solid lives. So, when I say family, I mean the people that you bond with and the people
support
that you
structure.
Yeah. And a lot of those are really important, especially in high school and in college. I mean, some of my strongest, closest friends are from that time period, and I think you hang on to those people, you be true to those people, and you respect those people and carry them with you. And I think that then you don't feel alone, and even if you do have to go somewhere by yourself and work to, graduate or get a job, make new friends, make a new life, whatever it is, you still have that support system that reminds you of why you're doing what you're doing and who you're doing it with. And there are people who get to a point where they go, this really wasn't what I signed up for, and that's okay. So, don't be afraid to try, but don't be afraid to change your mind and realize, okay, I need to shift here. Sure. And take the opportunities that make themselves available to you. I think that the big fallacy is that we have to do it alone, and especially in the film business. You see it, directed by, they must be really brilliant. Well, there's like...
And then 150 other
Exactly.
credits.
And every one of those people contributed something.
Right.
Hopefully in that person's vision or whatever. But in many times, that person's lucky to have the people supporting them that they do. And I think that's actually part of the best part of the business. Part of the thing that people enjoy is working together, especially when you find people who are of like minds,
Sure.
and get what you're trying to say with the project or why you're trying to do it. So
perfect. Well, Randy, thank you so much for your time.
Sure. Thank you.